The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, a new rendering based on the Fuli translation of 1742 by George W. Crystal. Book 5. In the morning, when you find yourself unwilling to rise, have this thought at hand: I arise to the proper business of man, and shall I repine at setting about that work for which I was born and brought into the world? Am I equipped for nothing but to lie among the bedclothes and keep warm? But, you say, it is more pleasant to do so. Is pleasure, then, the object of your being, and not action, the exercise of your powers? Do you not see the smallest plants, the little sparrows, the ants, the spiders, the bees, all doing their part in working for order in the universe, as far as in them lies? And will you refuse the part in this design which is laid on man? Will you not pursue the course which accords with your own nature? You say, I must have rest. Assuredly, but nature appoints a measure for rest, just as for eating and drinking. In rest you go beyond these limits, and beyond what is enough. But in action you do not fill the measure, and remain well within your powers. You do not love yourself. If you did, you would love your nature and its purpose. Others, who love the art that they have made their own, exhaust themselves with laboring at it, unwashed and unfed. But you honor your own nature less than the carver honors his carving, less than the dancer honors his dancing, the miser his gold, or the vain man his empty fame. These men, when desire takes them, count food and sleep well lost if they can better realize the object of their longings. And shall the pursuit of the common good seem less precious in your eyes and worthy of a lesser zeal? How easy it is to thrust away and blot out each impression that is disturbing and unfit, and forthwith to enjoy perfect tranquility. Judge no speech or action unworthy of you which is consistent with nature. Be not dissuaded by any consequent criticism or censure from others, but if the speech or action be honorable, judge yourself worthy to say or do it. Those who criticize you have their own conscience and their own motives. These you are not to regard, but follow a straight course, guided by your own nature and the nature of the universe, both of which point the same way. I walk the way which is nature's, until at last I shall fall and be at rest, breathing out my breath into the air wherefrom I daily drew it, falling on that earth whence my father drew his seed, my mother her blood, and my nurse the milk which nourished me, on that earth which has given me my daily food and drink through all these years, which sustains my footsteps and bears with me, her manifold abuser. Men cannot admire you for your shrewdness. Be it so. But there is many another quality of which you cannot say, it is not in me. Display these, they are wholly in your power. Be sincere, be dignified, be painstaking. Scorn pleasure, repine not at fate, need little. Be kind and frank. Love not exaggeration and vain talk. Strive after greatness. Do you not see how many virtues you might show, of which you are yet content to fall short, though you have not the excuse that they are absent, or that you are unfit for them? Are you driven by some want in your equipment to be querulous, to be miserly, to be a flatterer, to reproach your body with your own faults, to cringe to others, to be vainglorious, to have all this restlessness in your soul? No, by the gods, you might have escaped these vices long ago. All your fault, then, is that you are somewhat slow and dull of comprehension. This you should strive to correct by exercise, neither neglecting your dullness, nor taking a mean pleasure in it. Some men, when they have done you a favor, are very ready to reckon up the obligation they have conferred. Others, again, are not so forward in their claims, but yet in their minds consider you their debtor, and well know the value of what they have done. A third sort seem to be unconscious of their service. They are like the vine, which produces its clusters, and is satisfied when it has yielded its proper fruit. The horse, when he has run his course, the hound, when he has followed the track, the bee, when it has made its honey, and the man, when he has done good to others, make no noisy boast of it, but set out to do the same once more, as the vine in its season produces its new clusters again. Should we, then, be among those who in a manner know not what they do? Assuredly. But this very thing implies intelligence, for it is a property of the unselfish man to perceive that he is acting unselfishly, and surely to wish his fellow also to perceive it. True, but if you misapprehend my saying, you will enter the ranks of those of whom I spoke before. They too are led astray by specious reasonings. But if you have the will to understand what my principle truly means, fear not that in following it you will neglect the duty of unselfishness. This is a prayer of the Athenians. Reign, reign, dear Zeus, on the plains and plowlands of the Athenians. Man should either not pray at all, or pray after this frank and simple fashion. Just as one says that Asclepius has prescribed a course of riding for someone, or the cold bath, or walking barefooted, so it may be said that the guiding mind prescribes for a man disease, or mutilation, or losses, or the like. Prescribed, in the first case, means that such treatment was enjoined on the patient as might coincide with the needs of his health. In the second case, it means that each man's fortune is appointed to coincide with the purposes of fate. Now, the very word coincidence implies something like that correspondence of squared stones in a wall or pyramid, which workmen speak of when they fit them together in some structure. All things are united in one bond of harmony, and just as all existing bodies go to make the visible world what it is, so destiny, as the general cause, is compounded of all particular causes. The most unphilosophical grasp my meaning, for they say, fate gave this to so and so. This was appointed or prescribed for him. Let us then receive the decrees of fate, as we receive the prescriptions of Asclepius. He prescribes many things for us, and some of them are harsh medicines. Yet we obey him gladly, in the hope of health. Conceive, therefore, that, for nature, the doing of her work and the fulfilling of her purposes are, as it were, her health, and welcome all that happens, even should it seem hard fortune, because it tends to the health of the universe, and to the prosperity and felicity of Zeus. He would not have brought this or that on any man, did it not contribute to the good of the whole. Nor does any part of nature's system bring aught to pass which suits not with her government. For two reasons, then, you should content yourself with what befalls you. The first is that what is created and ordained for you, and was in a manner related to you from the beginning, in the weaving of all destinies from the first great causes. The second is that even what happens severally to each man contributes to the well-being and prosperity of the mind which governs all things, and indeed even to its continued existence. For the whole is maimed if you break in the slightest degree this continuous connection, whether of parts or causes, and this you are doing your best to break and to destroy whenever you repine at fate. Fret not, neither despond nor be disheartened, if it be not always possible for you to act according to your principles of perfection. If you are beaten off, return again to the effort, and content yourself that your conduct is generally such as becomes a man. Love the good to which you return, and come back to philosophy, not as one who comes to a master, but as one whose eyes ache recurs to sponge and egg, as another has recourse to plasters, or a third to fomentation, and thus you will make no empty show of obeying reason, but find that it gives you rest. Remember that philosophy demands no more than what your nature requires, but you are wont to desire other things which accord not with your nature. For what, you say, can be more delightful than such things? Is not this the very snare which pleasure sets for us? Yet consider if magnanimity, frankness, simplicity, kindness, and piety be not even greater delights. And what is sweeter than wisdom itself, when you are conscious of security and felicity in your powers of apprehension and reason. The natures of things are so covered up from us that to many philosophers, and these no mean ones, all things seem incomprehensible. The Stoics themselves own that it is so difficult to comprehend anything with certainty. All our assent is inconsistent, for where is the consistent man? Consider, too, the objects of our knowledge. How transitory are they, and how mean? How often they are in the possession of the debauchee, of the harlot, of the robber. Review again the morals of your contemporaries. It is scarcely possible to tolerate the best-mannered among them, not to say that a man can scarcely tolerate himself. Amid such darkness and filth, in this perpetual flux of substance, of time, of motion, and of things moved, I can perceive nothing worthy of esteem or of desire. On the contrary, we should comfort ourselves as we await our natural dissolution, and not be vexed at the delay, but find rest in these thoughts. First, that nothing can befall us which is not in accord with the nature of all things. Second, that it is always in our power not to do anything against the divine spirit within us. To this, no force can compel us. To what end am I using my soul? Let me examine myself as to this on all occasions, and consider what is passing now in that part of me which men call the ruler of the rest. Let me think too, whose is the soul that I have? Is it a child's? Is it a youth's? A timorous woman's, or a tyrant's? The soul of a tame beast, or of a savage one? Of what value the things are which the many account good, you may judge from this. If a man has conceived certain things, such as prudence, temperance, justice, or courage, to be good in the real sense, he cannot, while he is of this mind, readily listen to the traditional gibe about superabundance of good things. It will not fit the case. But when he has in mind things which seem good in the eyes of the multitude, he is perfectly willing to hear and accept as quite appropriate the raillery of the comic poet. Thus, even the ordinary mind perceives the difference. For if this were not so, we would not in the first case repudiate the jest as offensive, nor would we salute it as a happy witticism when applied to wealth, or to the opulence which produces luxury and ostentation. Proceed then, and put the question whether these things are to be valued and esteemed good, of which we have such an opinion that we may aptly say of their possessor, he has so many possessions about him that he has no place wherein to ease himself. I consist of a formal and a material element. Neither of these two shall die and fade into nothingness, since neither came into being out of nothing. Every part of me, then, will be transformed and arranged again in some part of the universe. That part of the universe will itself be transmuted into another part, and so on for all time coming. By some such change as this, I came into being, likewise my progenitors, and so back from all time past. There is no objection to this theory, even though the world be governed by determined cycles of revolution. Reason and the art of thinking are powers which are complete in themselves and in their special processes. They start from their own internal principle and proceed to their appointed end. Such mental acts are called right, to indicate that the course of thought is right or straight. Nothing should be said to be part of a man which is not part of his human nature. Things that are not part of his essence cannot be required of him, and have no part in the promise or the fulfillment of his nature. Therefore, in such things lies neither the end of man, nor the good which crowns that end. Moreover, if anything were really part of a man, it would not be proper for him to despise it, or revolt against it, nor would he be praiseworthy who made himself independent thereof. If non-essential things were indeed good, he could be no good man who stinted himself in the use of them. But, as we see, the more a man goes without them, and the more he endures the want of them, the better a man he is. The character of your most frequent impressions will be the character of your mind. The soul takes color from its impressions. Therefore, steep it in such thoughts as these. Wherever a man can live, he can live well. A man can live in a court. Therefore, he can live well there. Again, everything works towards that for which it was created, and that to which anything works is its end. And in the end of everything is to be found the advantage and the good of it. Now, for reasoning beings, society is the highest good, for it has long since been proved that we were brought into the world to be social. Nay, was it not manifest that the inferior kinds were formed for the superior, and the superior for each other? Now, the animate is superior to the inanimate, and beings that reason to those that only live. To pursue impossibilities is madness, and it is impossible that the wicked should not act in some such way as this. Nothing can befall any man which he is not fitted by nature to bear. The like events befall others, and either through ignorance that the event has happened, or from ostentation of magnanimity, they stand firm and unhurt by them. Strange, then, that ignorance or ostentation should have more strength than wisdom. In truth, material things cannot touch the soul at all, nor have they any access to it. neither can they bend or move it. The soul is bent or moved by itself alone, and remodels all things that present themselves from without, in accordance with whatever judgment it adopts within. In one respect, man is nearest and dearest to me, in so far, that is, as I must do good to him and bear with him. But, in so far as some men obstruct me in my natural activities, man enters the class of things indifferent to me, no less than the sun, the wind, or a wild beast. By these, indeed, some special action may be impeded, but no interference with my purpose or with my inward disposition can come from them, thanks to my acceptive and modifying powers. For the mind can convert and change everything that impedes its activity into matter for its action. Hindrance in its work becomes its real help, and every obstruction makes for its progress. Reverence that which is most excellent in the universe, and the most excellent is that which employs all things and rules all. Likewise, reverence that which is most excellent in yourself. It is of the same nature as the former, for it is that which employs all else that is in you, and that by which your whole life is ordered. That which harms not the city cannot harm the citizen. Apply this rule whenever you have the idea that you are hurt. If the state be not hurt by this, neither am I harmed. And if the state be hurt, we should not be wrathful with him who hurt it. Consider, instead, where lay his oversight. Consider, too, frequently how swiftly things that exist or are coming into existence are swept by and carried away. Their substance is as a river perpetually flowing. Their actions are in continual change, and their causes subject to 10,000 alterations. Scarcely anything is stable, and the vast eternities of past and future, in which all things are swallowed up, are close upon us on both hands. Is he not then a fool who is puffed up with success in the things of this world, or is distracted or worried, as if he were in a time of trouble, likely to endure for long? Keep in mind the universe of being in which your part is exceeding small, the universe of time of which a brief and fleeting moment is assigned to you, the destiny of things, and how infinitesimal your share therein. Does another wrong me? Let him look to that. His character and his actions are his own. So much is in my present possession as is dispensed to me by the nature of things, and I act as my own nature now bids me. Let the leading and ruling part of your soul stand unmoved by the stirrings of the flesh, whether gentle or rude. Let it not commingle with them, but keep itself apart, and confine these passions to their proper bodily parts. And if they rise into the soul by any sympathy with the body to which it is united, then we must not attempt to resist the sensation, seeing that it is of our nature. But let not the soul, for its part, add thereto the conception that the sensation is good or bad. Live with the gods, and he lives with the gods, who continually displays to them his soul, living in satisfaction with its lot, and doing the will of the inward spirit, a portion of his own divinity, which Zeus has given to every man for a ruler and a guide. This is the intelligence, the reason that abides in us all. Are you angry with one whose armpits smell, or whose breath is foul? What is the use? His mouth or his armpits are so, and the consequence must follow. But, you say, man is a reasonable being, and could by attention discern in what he offends. Very well, you too have reason. Use your reason to move his. Instruct him, admonish him. If he listens, you will cure him, and there will be no reason for anger. You are neither actor nor harlot. As you intend to live at your going, so you can live here. But if men do not permit you, then depart from life, yet so as if no misfortune had befallen you. If my house be smoky, I go out, and where is the great matter? So long as no such trouble drives me out, I remain at my will, and no one will prevent me from acting as I will. My will is the will of a reasonable and social being. And the intelligence of the universe, too, is social. It has therefore made the inferior orders for the sake of the superior, and has suited the superior beings for one another. You see how it hath subordinated, and coordinated, and distributed to each according to its merit, and engaged the nobler beings to a mutual agreement and unanimity. Ask yourself, how have you behaved towards the gods, towards your parents, your brothers, your wife, children, teachers, those who reared you, your friends, your intimates, and your slaves? Can it be said that you have ever acted towards all of them in the spirit of the line? He wrought no harshness, spoke no unkind word. Recollect all you have passed through, all that you have had strength to bear. Your life is now a tale that is told, and your service is all discharged. Recall the fair sights you have seen, the pleasures and the pains you have despised, the so-called glory that you have foregone, the unkindly men to whom you have shown kindness. How is it that unskilled and ignorant souls disturb the skillful and intelligent? What, I ask, is the skillful and intelligent soul? It is that which knows the beginning and the end, and the reason which pervades all being, and by determined cycles rules the universe for all time. In truth, in a little space, you will be only ashes and dry bones and a name. Perhaps not even that. A name is but so much empty sound and echo, and the things which are so much prized in life are empty, mean, and rotten. We are as puppies that snap at one another, as children that quarrel, laugh, and presently weep again. But integrity, modesty, justice, and truth, up from the wide-wide earth have soared to heaven. What then should detain you here? Things sensible are ever changing and unstable. The senses are dull and easily deceived. The poor soul itself is a mere exhalation from blood. Fame in such a world is a thing of naught. What then? You await calmly extinction or transformation, whichever it may be. Until the fullness of the time be come, what is to suffice you? What else than a life spent in fearing and praising the gods, and in the practice of benevolence, toleration, and forbearance towards men? And whatsoever lies beyond the bounds of flesh and breath, remember that it is neither yours nor in your power. A prosperous life may be yours if only you can take the right path and keep to it in all you think or do. Two advantages are common to gods, to men, and to every rational soul. In the first place, nothing external to themselves has power to hinder them. In the second, their happiness lies in having mind and conduct disposed to justice, and in the power to make that the end of all desire. If the fault be not my sin, nor a consequence of it, if there be no damage to the common good, why am I perturbed about it? Wherein is the harm to the common good? Be not incautiously carried away by sentiment, but aid him that needs it according to your power and his desert. If his need be of the things which are indifferent, think not that he is harmed thereby, for so to think is an evil habit. But as in the comedy, the old man begs to have his foster child's top for a keepsake, though he knows well that it is a top and nothing more, so should you act also in the affairs of life. You mount the rostra and cry aloud, "O man, Have you forgotten what is the real value of what you seek? No, but the many are keen in their pursuit of it. Are you then to be a fool because they are? In whatever case I had been left, I could have made my fortune. For what is it to make a fortune but to confer good things upon oneself? And true good things are a worthy frame of mind, worthy impulses, and worthy actions. End of the 5th book. Book 6. The substance of the universe is docile and pliable. The mind which governs it has in itself no source of evil doing. It has no malice. It does no ill, and nothing is hurt by it. By its guidance, all things come to be and fulfill their being. Act the part which is worthy of you, regarding not whether you be stiff with cold or comfortably warm, whether you be drowsy or refreshed with sleep, whether you be in good report or bad, whether you be dying or upon some other business. For death also is one piece of the business of life, and, here as elsewhere, it is enough to do well what comes to our hand. Look within. Let not the proper quality or value of anything escape you. All that exists will very speedily change, by rarefaction, if all substance be one, otherwise by dispersion. The guiding mind knows what its own condition is, how and upon what matter its work is done. Truly, the best revenge is not to copy him that wronged you. Rather, find your sole delight and recreation in proceeding from one unselfish action to another, with God ever in mind. The ruling part of you is that which rouses and steers itself, making itself what it wishes to be, and making all that happens take such appearance as it will. All things are accomplished according to the will of universal nature. There is no other nature to influence them, which either comprehends the former from without, or is contained within it, or exists externally and independent of it. For the universe is either a confusion raveled and unraveled again, or else a unity compact of order and forethought. If it be the former, why should I wish to linger amid this aimless chaos and confusion, or have any further care than how to become earth again? Nay, why am I disturbed at all? Dissolution will overtake me, whatever I please. But, if the latter be the case, I adore the ruler of all things. I stand firm and put my trust in him. Whenever your situation forces trouble upon you, return quickly to yourself and interrupt the rhythm of life no longer than you are compelled. Your grasp of the harmony will grow surer by continual recurrence to it. Had you at one time both a stepmother and a mother, you would respect the former, yet you would be more constantly in your mother's company. Your court and your philosophy are stepmother and mother to you. Return then frequently to your true mother, and recreate yourself with her. Her consolation can make the court seem bearable to you, and you to it. Keep these thoughts for meats and edibles. This that is before me is the dead carcass of a fish, a fowl, a hog. This Falernian is but a little grape juice. Think of your purple robes as sheep's wool stained in the blood of a shellfish. Such conceptions, which touch reality so near, has set forth the sum and substance of these objects, are powerful indeed to display to us their despicable value. In this spirit, we should act throughout life, and when things of great apparent worth present themselves, we should strip them naked, view their meanness, and cast aside the glowing description which makes them seem so glorious. Vanity is a great sophist, and most imposes on us when we believe ourselves to be busy about the noblest ends. Remember, rather, the saying of Crates about Xenocrates himself. Most objects of vulgar admiration may be referred to contain general classes. There are, first, those which hold together by cohesion or by some organic unity, such as stone, timber, figs, vines, or olives. The things which men, a shade more reasonable, admire, are referred to the class which possesses animal life, such as is seen in flocks and herds. When man's taste is still more cultured, his admiration turns to things which can show a rational intelligence. But he admires this intelligence not as a universal principle, but only so far as he finds it expressed in art or industry, or, indeed, sometimes merely so far as it is exhibited by his retinue of artist slaves. But he who values rational intelligence as a universal thing, and as a social force, will care nothing for these other objects of admiration. He will, above all things, strive to preserve his own mind in all its rational and social instincts and activities. And to this end, he will cooperate with any of his kind. Some things hasten into being, some hasten to be no more. Even as a thing is born, some part of it is already dead. Flux and change are constantly renewing the world, just as the unbroken flow of time ever presents to us some new portion of eternity. In this vast river, on whose bosom there is no tarrying, what is there among the things that sweep by us that is worth the prizing? It is as if a man grew fond of one among a passing flight of sparrows, when already it had vanished from his sight. Our life itself is much like a vapor of the blood, or a drawing in of air. Our momentary actions of inhalation and exhalation are one in kind with that whole power of breathing which, yesterday or the day before, we received at birth, in which we must restore again to the source from whence we drew it. It is a small privilege to transpire like plants, or even to breathe as cattle or wild beasts do, to feel the impressions of sense, to be swayed like puppets by passion, to herd together and to live by bread. All this is no great thing. There is nothing here superior to our power of discharging our superfluous food. What then is of value? To be received with the clapping of hands? No. Neither, therefore, is the applauses of tongues more valuable, for the praises of the multitude are naught but the idle clapping of tongues. Dismiss that vanity called fame, and what remains to be prized? This, I think. In all things to act, or to restrain yourself from action, as best suits the particular structure of your nature. This is the end of all arts and studies, for every art aims at making what it produces well adapted to the work for which it was designed. The gardener, the vine dresser, the horse breaker, the dog trainer all try for this. And what else is the aim of all education and teaching? Here, then, is what you may truly value. This well won, you will seek for nothing more. Will you, then, cease valuing the multitude of other things? If you do not, you will never attain to freedom, self-sufficiency, or tranquility. You cannot escape envying, suspecting, and striving against those who have the power to deprive you of your cherished objects, nor plotting against men who are in possession of that on which you set your heart. The man who lacks any of these things must, of necessity, be distracted, and be forever complaining against the gods. But reverence and respect for your own intelligence will bring you to agreement with yourself, into concord with mankind, and into harmony with the gods, whom you will praise for all their good gifts and guidance. Upward, downward, round and round run the courses of the elements. But the course of virtue is like none of these. It follows a more divine path, well directed in a way that is hard for us to understand. Strange are the ways of men. They can speak no good word of the contemporaries with whom they live. Yet they count it a great thing to gain the praises of a posterity whom they never saw nor shall see. As well might we grieve because we cannot hear the praises of our ancestors. If a thing seems to you very difficult to accomplish, conclude not that it is beyond human power. But if you see that thing, anything, is within man's power, and part of his proper work, conclude that you may also attain to it. In the gymnasium, if someone scratches us with his nails, or in a sudden onset bruises our head, we express no resentment. We are not offended, nor do we suspect him for the future as one who is plotting against us. We are on our guard against him, it is true, but not as against an enemy or a suspected person. In all good humor, we simply keep out of his way. Let us thus behave in other affairs of life, and overlook the many injuries which are done to us by our antagonists in the gymnasium of the world, as it were. As I said, we may keep out of their way, but without suspicion or hatred. If anyone can convince or show me that I am wrong in thought or deed, I will gladly change, for it is truth that I seek, and truth never yet hurt any man. What does hurt is persistence in error or in ignorance. I do my duty, and for the rest am not distracted by anything by which is inanimate or irrational, or which has lost or ignores the proper way. Use the brute creation, and also all material things, in the spirit of magnanimity and freedom, which becomes him who has reason in using that which has it not. Towards men who have reason, act in a social spirit. In every business, call the gods to aid thee, nor trouble how long this business shall endure. 3 hours spent therein may suffice you. Alexander of Macedon and his muleteer, when they died, were in a like condition. They were either alike resumed into the seminal source of all things, or alike dispersed among the atoms. Consider, then, all the many things, both physical and spiritual, that are a-doing within each of us at the very same instant of time, and you will wonder the less at the far greater multitudes of things, even all that is, which exist together in the one and all which we call the universe. Should someone ask you how the name Antoninus is written, would you not carefully pronounce to him each one of the letters? Should he then begin an angry dispute about it, would you also grow angry, and not rather mildly count over the several letters to him? Thus, in life, remember that each duty is made up of a number of elements. We should observe all of these calmly, and without anger at those who are angry with us, we should set about accomplishing the task which lies before us. Is it not cruel to restrain men from pursuing what appears to be their own advantage? And yet, in a manner, you deny them this liberty when you show anger at their errors. Men are assuredly attracted to what seems to be their own advantage. Yes, you say, but it is not their advantage. Instruct them, then, and make this evident to them, but without anger. Death is the cessation of the sensual impressions, of the impulses of the passions, of the questionings of reason, and of the servitude to the flesh. It is shame and dishonor that, in any man's life, the soul should faint from its duty while the body still holds out. See to it that you fall not into Caesarism. Avoid that stain, for it may come to you. Guard your simplicity, your goodness, your sincerity, your dignity, your reticence, love of justice, piety, kindliness, your affection for your kin, and your constancy to your duty. Endeavor earnestly to continue such as philosophy would make you. Reverence the gods and help mankind. Life is short, and the one fruit of it in this world is a pure mind and unselfish conduct. Be in all things the disciple of Antonine. Imitate his resolute constancy to rational action, his level equability, his godliness, his serenity of countenance, sweetness of temper, contempt of vainglory, and his keen attempts to comprehend things. Remember how he never quitted any subject till he had thoroughly examined and understood it, and how he bore with those who blamed him unjustly, without making any angry retort. How he was never in a hurry, how he discouraged calumny, how closely he scanned the manners and actions of men, how cautious he was in reproaching any man, how free from fear, suspicion, or sophistry, how little contented him in the matter of house, furniture, dress, food, or servants, how patient he was of labor, and how slow to anger. So abstemious was his life that he could hold out until evening without relieving himself, except at the usual hour. What a firm and loyal friend he was! How patient of frank opposition to his opinions! How glad if anyone could set him right! How religious he was, and yet how free from superstition! Follow in his steps, that your last hour may find you with a conscience as easy as his. Sober yourself, recall your senses, shake sleep from you, and know that it was a dream that troubled you, and now that you are wide awake again, regard the waking world as you did the dream. I am made up of a frail body and a soul. To the body, all things are indifferent, because it cannot distinguish them. And to the mind, all things are indifferent also, which arise not from its own activities. All these are indeed in its own power, but it is concerned with only such of them as are present. Its past and future activities are indifferent to it now. No toil for hand or foot is against nature, so long as it is proper for hand or foot to do. No more, then, is toil contrary to the nature of man, as man, so long as he is doing work appointed for man to do, and if it be not contrary to his nature, it cannot be evil for him. How many are the pleasures that have been enjoyed by robbers, rakes, parricides, and tyrants? Do you not see how common artificers, though they may humor the public to a certain extent, cling to the rules of their art, and cannot endure to depart from them? Is it not grievous, then, that the architect and the physician should show greater respect for the rules of their several professions than a man shows for his own reason, which he possesses in common with the gods? Asia and Europe are mere corners of the universe. The whole sea is but a drop, Athos a clod. All the present is but an instant in eternity. All things are small, changeable, and fleeting. Everything proceeds from the universal intelligence, either directly or as a consequence. Thus, the jaws of lions, poisons, all evil things, such as thorns or mire, are the consequences of the grand and the beautiful. Do not then imagine that they are foreign to that which you revere, but consider well the source of all things. He who has seen the present has seen all that either has been from all eternity or will be to all eternity, for all things are alike in kind and form. Consider frequently the connection of all things in the universe and their relation to each other. All things are in a manner intermingled with one another, and are, therefore, mutually friendly. For one thing comes in due order after another, by virtue of local movements, and of the harmony and unity of the whole. Adapt yourself to the things which your destiny has given you. Love those with whom it is your lot to live, and love them with sincere affection. A tool, an instrument, a utensil, All are good in case when it is fit for its proper work, yet its maker remains not by it, but within the organisms of nature there remains and resides the power which made them. You ought, therefore, to reverence this power all the more, believing that if you act in deference to its will, all will happen to you in reason. For so, in reason, the universe ranges all. Whenever we imagine that anything which lies not in our power is good or evil for us, if the evil befall us, or if we miss the good, we inevitably blame the gods and hate the men who are, or whom we suspect to be, the cause of our disaster or our loss. Our solicitude about such things leads to much injustice. But if we judge only the things that are in our power to be good or evil, there is no reason left for accusing the gods or for hating men. We are all cooperating in one great work, some with knowledge and understanding, others ignorantly and without design. It is in this sense, I think, that Heraclitus says that men are working even while they sleep, working together in all that is being done in the universe. Each works in a different way, and even those contribute abundantly who murmur and try to oppose and to frustrate the course of nature. The world has need even of such as these. It remains then for you to make sure which is the class in which you rank yourself. The presiding mind will assuredly use you to good purpose one way or the other, and will enlist you among its laborers and fellow workers. But see to it that the part that falls to you lie not in the vulgar comic passage of the play, of which Chrysippus has spoken. Does the sun pretend to perform the work of the rain, or Asclepius that of Ceres? What of the several stars? Are they not different, yet all jointly working for the same end? If the gods took counsel about me, and what should befall me, doubtless then counsel was good. It is difficult to imagine gods wanting in forethought, and what could move them to do me wilful harm? What advantage would thence accrue, either to themselves or to the universe which is their special care? If they have not taken counsel about me in particular, they certainly have done so about the common interest of the universe, and I, therefore, should accept cheerfully and contentedly the fate which is the outcome of their ordinance. If, indeed, they take no counsel about anything, which it were impious to believe, then let us quit our sacrifices, our prayers and our oaths, and all acts of devotion, which we now perform as if they lived and moved amongst us. But, granting that the gods take no thought for my affairs, I may still deliberate about myself. It is my business to consider my own interest. Now, each man's interest is that which agrees with the structure of his nature, and my nature is rational and social. As Antoninus, my city and my country is Rome. As a human being, it is the world. That alone, then, which profits these two cities can profit me. All that happens to the individual is of profit to the whole. This would suffice. But if you consider closely, you will see that it is also a general truth that all that happens to one man is of profit to the rest of mankind. Profit here should be taken in a somewhat general sense, as referring to things indifferent. In the amphitheater and other such resorts, the same or similar spectacles, continually presented, cloy at last. It is even so in all our experience of life. All things, first and last, are alike, and like derived. When shall the end be? Think continually of all the men that are dead and gone, men of every sort and condition, of all manner of pursuits, and of every nation. Return back to Philistion, Phoebus, and Orogenian. Pass down to other generations of the dead. We must all change our habitation and go to that place whither so many great orators, so many venerable philosophers, Heraclitus, Pythagoras, Socrates, and so many heroes have gone before, and so many generals and princes have followed. Add to these Eudoxus, Hipparchus, Archimedes, and other keen, great, laborious, cunning, and arrogant spirits, yea, such as have wittily derided this fading mortal life, which is but for a day, as did Menippus and his brethren. Consider that all these are long since in their graves. And wherein here is the harm for them, or even for men whose names are not remembered? The one precious thing in life is to spend it in a steady course of truth and justice, with kindliness even for the false and the unjust. When you would cheer your heart, consider the several excellencies of those that live around you. Consider the activity of one, the modesty of another, the generosity of a third, and the other virtues of the rest. Nothing rejoices the heart so much as instances, the more the better, of goodness manifested in the characters of those around us. Let us, therefore, have such instances ever present for reflection. Are you grieved that you weigh only these few pounds, and not 300? If not, is there greater reason to sorrow if you live only so many years, and no longer? You are satisfied with your allotted quantity of matter. Content yourself then likewise with the span of time appointed you. Try to persuade men to agree with you, but, whether they agree or not, pursue the course you have marked out when the principles of justice point that way. Should one oppose you by force, act with resignation, and show not that you are hurt. Use the obstruction for the exercise of some other virtue, and remember that your purpose involved the reservation that you are not to aim at impossibilities. What, after all, was your aim? To make some good effort, such as this. Well, then you have succeeded, even though your first purpose be not accomplished. The vainglorious man places his happiness in the action of others. The sensualist finds it in his own sensations. The wise man, however, realizes it in his own work. For you have it in your power to form no opinion about this or that, and so to have peace of mind. Things material have no power to form our opinions for us. Accustom yourself, then, to attend closely to what is said by others, and, as far as possible, to penetrate into the mind of the speaker. What profits not the swarm, profits not the bee. If the sailors revile their pilot, or the sick their physician, whom will they follow or obey? And how will the one secure safety to the crew, or the other health to the patients? How many who entered the world with me are already departed? To the jaundiced, honey seems bitter, and water is a thing of dread to those bitten by mad dogs. To boys, a ball is a glorious thing. Why then am I angry? Has error in the mind less power than a little bile in the jaundiced, or a little poison in him who is bitten? In truth, no man can prevent you from living according to the plan of your nature, and nothing can befall you which is contrary to the plan of the nature of the universe. Consider then what men are, whom they seek to please, what they expect to gain, and how they go about to compass their ends. Think how soon eternity will shroud all things, and how much is already shrouded. End of the 6th book.